In 1960, Dad brought Carl Strader on staff as associate pastor. He was dynamic, maybe the best preacher any of us had ever heard. Best of all, he was loyal, Dad's brother-in-law, married to our own favorite, Aunt Joyce. When we lived in Indianapolis, both the Williams and the Straders lived in Florida. Uncle Ward, vice president of Southeastern, Carl, the men's dean. It meant that a vacation to Florida was a chance to see both families with lots of cousins, Johnny, Mary Jo, Paul, Steve, Carla, Dawn, and Danny. Steve Strader and Tim Weed became buddies. Steve would grow up to be a missionary evangelist and a pastor. Tim would be an actor, make television appearances, and have his own drama performance ministry. Vacations to Florida were a family tradition, and time with our cousins the best part of it all. Now the Straders would be moving to South Bend. We would see them every day. It was a lot to take in. Joyce Arlene Weed doesn't appear in the famous picture of J.K. Weed's children. She was born later, February 2nd, 1929. My dad, Roy, would be her closest sibling. Her big sister, Florence, would be 20 years older. The family was grown, and soon it would be scattered, but at reunions, Joyce Weed took her role as an aunt very seriously, entertaining her expanding world of nephews and nieces, always with a good story. She was the child of J.K. and Dolly Weed's old age. When she was 14 years old, Dr. O'Toole showed up at school, called her out of class. She was worried her dad's cold may have gotten worse. But he was gone. For weeks, Joyce curled up with a favorite cat to talk about her daddy and the funeral. Her 56-year-old mother, Dolly, never panicked. Within the year, she, Joyce, and her stepbrother, Uncle Arch, moved to Rapid City. Our Aunt Joyce was a hoot, the favorite of her many nephews and nieces. She drove into Terre Haute one winter in a colorful convertible burnt orange Nash Rambler, Ladybug she called it. A Corvette wouldn't have been more impressive. She swept the Weed boys up in her arms, gathered us around a fireplace to tell us Rudyard Kipling stories of Jungle Book. Even at a young age, Joyce began to become the center of the family universe. Beautiful and accomplished, my own grandmother, Mama Willa Short, introduced her to her competition, the hottest young Assemblies of God evangelist in the country, Bob Willis. My Aunt Joyce and Bob Willis became engaged to be married. She only asked to graduate from Bob Jones University first. It was a fatal decision. In the gardens of the Shriners Hospital in Greenville, South Carolina on June 3, 1954, Joyce Weed married Carl Strader, a Bob Jones University graduate student. Some said it was a big mistake. Willis was the future. Everybody in the Assemblies of God knew his name. Today, nobody does. But everybody in the Assemblies of God and the wider Pentecostal movement knows Carl Strader. Carl and Joyce would have a great ministry, build one of the largest evangelical churches in America with an auditorium seating 10,000, and build one of the most commercially successful religious radio stations in the world. Practically the whole family came to the wedding. Grandma Weed, Uncle Bus, Aunt Millie, the twins, Uncle Elton, Aunt Florence, Dolly, Butch, Steve, Donna Dutton, all four of the Weed boys. It was a great outdoor extravaganza without a drop of rain to spoil the day. The trick for Carl and Joyce was how to get away. The older cousins were intent on making a mess of their first night. Dolly Ellingson had the answer. She was an expert at getaways, dodging boys all over Minneapolis. She brought down one of her dad's new white convertible Mercuries. After the wedding, she was rushed into the car as if she were the bride. Dolly led her naughty cousins on a merry chase through the Carolina mountains before they angrily discovered they were following the wrong car. But Joyce and Carl paid for this deception. The next morning, Dolly's mother, our own Aunt Florence, made a trek up to the hidden honeymoon cottage to offer the weary couple her unabridged marathon marriage seminar. The Straders could only sit meekly and listen. So in 1960, with Dad leading the congregation in South Bend, Carl and Joyce Strader came to town to help out. He may have been a Bob Jones University graduate, but Strader, it turns out, was hot, Pentecostal hot. We would always stay close to the Straders even after they moved away. For a while, he would pastor in Gary, Indiana, and then come back to help Dad, feeling it was God's will. Only 6 weeks later, Dad had his first heart attack, and it was Carl Strader who kept things going. They would move to Lakeland, Florida, March 1966, take over the property at Carpenter's and build their new church, 1985. Steve became a missionary evangelist and pastor. Danny became a successful businessman. And yes, make a lot of people jealous in the process and get in trouble because of it. Carla, who loved to read, would become her father's executive assistant for years and marry a brilliant engineer. Don would marry a preacher who even now pastors in Lakeland, Florida.